A survey published by PwC reports that less than 1 in 3 corporate boards strongly understand how ESG risks affects their companies. Another section in the same survey highlights that half of directors need to see or fail to see the link between ESG and their company strategy. That sparked my curiosity. The ESG subject is often taken on the light side of the conversation, and board members may not fully grasp their ramifications. So I decided to get into the ESG topic and share my findings. Since ESG is such a topic right now, but it also seems to be fairly misunderstood, I will be looking at some of the ideas behind it without going deep into organizations and government agencies and getting more into the practical side of it. How does ESG stand for? Or what does ESG stand for? How does it relate to you as a board member or as an advisor of the board? How does it relate to PLCs specifically? So, as we know, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. While there may be varying interpretations at its core, ESG focuses on the impact we have on our environment and on people, communities, and society as a whole. Whether you consider it from an individual's perspective, or customers' perspectives, or PLC's perspectives, the interpretation might differ slightly. However, the ultimate goal should always be to make a positive impact on the end user, the community, the environment, and other relevant aspects. Business owners are constantly seeking ways to improve their businesses. They are focused on improving their offerings to customers and boosting their bottom line. However, they are also recognizing the importance of making a positive impact through their business practices. This is becoming increasingly relevant as customers' expectations and employee aspirations evolve over time. Businesses that have a clear purpose and contribute positively to society are becoming more appealing to people. And simultaneously, the investment community is also becoming more conscious of the impact businesses have on the environment and social objectives. So investors now consider the destination and utilization of their investment more carefully. There are various factors that contribute to this thought process, both positives and negatives. One of these factors revolves around the importance of doing what is morally right. Another factor is the growing aversion towards investing in things that have a detrimental impact, which is resonating with more and more people nowadays. As this understanding becomes more widespread, we are witnessing a shift in the mindset. If you engage in conversation with young individuals, you will find that this topic holds great significance for them. The future investor community is emerging because there is a belief that profitability and improving one's business can go hand in hand with incorporating ESG principles. Some may view this as an additional cost, but in reality, it is not. There is an abundance of research available that demonstrate how implementing the right practices within businesses can have a positive impact on both their financial performances and the well-being of the planet and the people that we live in the planet, of course. It is interesting to see that some banks are now openly discussing ESG for SMEs, such as the Bendigo Bank in Australia, which has ranked as the most trusted bank in Australia. They claim that focusing on ESG can help attract investors. And actually, they literally have a paragraph that says that in their blog. And I open quotes here, it says, "It will help you to attract investors," and I close quotes. So you can research that in the Bendigo Bank webpage. So I've always believed that small businesses have naturally been incorporating these practices since the beginning. They attract talented staff and clients by highlighting the greater purpose they serve. The challenge lies in articulating these efforts in a way that appeals to investors. However, it's clear that companies are now reaping the benefits of client demands for ESG components and components and are increasing across these demands across industries. It seems like there are factors at play here. One reason is the research indicating that we only have until 2030 to start reversing some of the damage we've caused to the planet or previous generations caused to the planet. This has led to a heightened focus on environmental issues. Additionally, the Paris Climate Agreement has come into effect, aiming for carbon neutrality by 2050. So, as a result, we are witnessing a growing emphasis on these issues in the political sphere. Of course, maneuvering through these challenges is complex, given the diverse perspectives and challenges and circumstances faced by different countries. It is important to note that in various countries there is a growing emphasis on environmental issues, largely driven by policy initiatives. Events like the upcoming COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, I think it's November 11th to 22nd this year, 2024, play a significant role in shaping these discussions. So the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change or the Conference of Parties takes place every year and is an opportunity to negotiate new measures and review parties' progress against the overall goal of the UNFCCC, or the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Actually, to limit the climate change or the negative impact of it. Generally, each Conference of Parties agrees on a statement or a binding agreement, which is publicly released at the end of the conference. So additionally, the increasing voices of young people are also contributing to the mainstreaming of ESG consideration. Climate change concept has been in existence for quite a while. So as we can see, this year marks COP29, which means that there have been nearly 10 to 30 years of conferences dedicated to reaching agreements on climate change policies. That's what I've been discovering. So, and I believe the challenge lies in truly comprehending it. It's about understanding the overwhelming amount of conflicting information that constantly emerges, and open brackets, decoding and closing brackets here, its implications. So it's like how much information we have and what we do with it. So it seems that there has been some doubt around whatever is this skepticism has been intentionally created to serve certain industry interest, or if it's genuine. We may not want to accept or confront this challenge, but it has been present for a significant period of time now. However, I believe that now the reality is starting to become evident as global temperatures continue to rise. Nevertheless, we must exercise caution because skepticism often arises from a lack of sufficient information, which leads to doubt. And say lack of sufficient information because there are so much information out there that which one is the right one to follow or not. It appears that we are beginning to truly experience the effects of climate change, leading to a growing movement towards more mindful actions today for a better future impact. Take, for instance, the evolution of technology 20 years ago. The internet was not as influential in communication as it is now. Just like how AI is rapidly reshaping certain industries in under 15 months compared to the internet's gradual growth over time. The influence of environmental factors, social structures, corporate governance is far more intricate than mere adoption. Perhaps the next phase involves focusing on actionable steps and helping individuals grasp their role and potential contributions, which is precisely what we are striving to achieve now. We mentioned skepticism, and it was nothing that a recent study revealed that German investors are the most skeptical about ESG worldwide. So we have to bring what is reality here. So it's a survey from Deutsche Bank. So it's the ESG Survey 2023, Sustainability, Transition and Investment. And they have a chapter that says spotlight on Germany, Spain and Italy. So I'm going to open quotes here because it's a quite interesting reading, and I wanted to share with you. It says, the Chief Investment Officer CIO survey under the Deutsche Wealth section of Deutsche Bank carried out a survey and received 1,759 survey responses between June and the end of July 2023, with a majority of responses around 55% from Germany, followed by Spain 80% and Italy 16%. Between these three European nations, there was a difference in the degree of investor belief and strong convictions in ESG. More investors in Italy agreed that ESG factors will improve performance and manage risk when compared to responses from German and Spanish investors. On the other hand, German investors were less likely to strongly agree to the survey's ESG propositions and more likely to strongly disagree. They were also more skeptical about ESG impact on portfolio performance and risk, or the availability of ESG product solutions. However, the bulk of investors across Italy 78%, Spain 74%, and Germany 73% strongly or even slightly agree that investors need more information on how companies plan to transition to a sustainable business model. And I close quotes here. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this survey and how businesses are looking into this, particularly in the SME space. So it is interesting to note that there has been a shift among younger millennial investors towards ESG. While the Deutsche Bank survey may show some skepticism among investing countries, I believe that investors do care. In fact, we have seen significant change as education improves in this area. Personally, I'm no skeptic, but I strongly believe that actions needs to be taken. One of the challenges is that the focus has been primarily on the financial aspect. However, it is important to understand that finance plays a crucial role in all of this. If we take a step back and consider the three words ESG individually, it becomes clear that approaching it from that perspective can actually make things simpler. Investors are showing a growing interest in ESG, and it seems that in the future there will be an increasing number of investors looking to support these initiatives. It's not just investors though. We also need to consider the action of governments. And for instance, in the US, specific investments have been established for ESG businesses. And this has been outlined, or it is outlined on the investor.gov webpage in the Environmental, Social and Governance Fund in the Investor Bulletin. A similar trend can be observed in the UK with the UK's Green Financing Programme, which aims to secure funding from investors for environmentally friendly projects addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and other environmental issues. As we progress, we can expect ESG considerations to gain momentum in the next 6 years leading to or up to 2030. Remember the Paris Agreement Carbon Zero Initiative. This trend is likely to become a standard practice in investment, as it is already being incorporated into due diligence by some investors. It is becoming increasingly common to see this, so it will eventually become an integral part of the investor decisions. And furthermore, it seems that we will continue to witness more of this from lending and investment perspective. Another compelling reason is that the larger firms, and you can see or you check on the Big Four, Big Five webpage, are already introducing ESG tax structures studies for the companies. And it won't be long before smaller businesses and SMEs also start giving serious thought to the new ESG tax landscape. So stopping for a second, looking into the future, let's see what happened in the past and how all this started in some way or how. So it is interesting how certain buzzwords become trendy, especially in the world of finance. So before 2008, the corporate social responsibility, or CSR, was hype. with many companies investing in CSR initiatives, training their employees, and much more. So if you don't remember what a CSR was a little pyramid, and they have 4 pillars or 4 layers: economic responsibility, legal responsibility, ethical responsibility, philanthropic responsibility. However, the global finance crisis led to some investors questioning the effectiveness of CSR, and which paved the way for the rise of ESG. So fast forward to 2019, BlackRock made a significant statement by committing to only invest in ESG projects. So when BlackRock announces ESG investments, BlackRock is probably the largest private wealth manager with $7 trillion, $8 trillion under management, made that significant move. Coincidentally, in August 19, the Corporate Governance Business Roundtable, or you can check it out in businessroundtable.org, redefines the purpose of corporations to promote an economy that serves all Americans, where they update the statement which moves away from the shareholder primacy and includes a commitment to all stakeholders. So from shareholder to stakeholders. By the way, this shift from shareholder primacy to a commitment to all stakeholders sparked a pledge signed by around 500 top American companies, emphasizing that businesses exist for the benefit of everyone, including planet Earth, communities, and staff. This moment marked a major turning point, in my opinion, regarding what become from CSR to ESG as we know it today. So you may think, why should I care about all this? I'm just illustrating something interesting, or I'm going to illustrate with something interesting. In December last year, I attended an investor conference where United Arab Emirates investors were struggling to find projects to allocate their ESG funds. It's becoming increasingly important to focus on ESG if you want to attract capital. While it may be challenging to see short-term benefits, the long-term impact is significant. Companies that neglect ESG may find themselves uninvestable in the future. So, well, you may say that that's for big enterprises rather than for us, small PLCs, small caps or SMEs investing. But consider this like anything else. Back in 2020, and I mean 4 years ago, how many people use machine learning and artificial intelligence daily? Literally no one. Just those, were those with access to these softwares or these capacities that were acquired by large enterprises, perhaps 100 top enterprises in the world. But today it's mainstream, and anyone with access to a device connected to the internet can take advantage of it. With governments and investors looking to allocate capital, I will argue that preparedness will meet capital and opportunities also in the small cap and SMEs of the world, probably not far from now. It's crucial for businesses to adapt and evolve with the changing times. Failing to do so can result in being left behind by competitors and losing touch with customers. Just like how technology has revolutionized our operations and business needs, or to shift their focus on activities to stay relevant to today's fast-paced world. Think about how high-end products from the past, like VHS or arcade shops or cameras, are now obsolete and unwanted. It's all about staying ahead of the curve and considering change as part of the continuous evolution of the business. And from the board advisor or member perspective, it is essential for businesses to expand their perspective beyond just focusing on finances. One of the main challenges I have observed is the need for more understanding in these areas that we mentioned earlier. However, we can overcome these obstacles through education and, most importantly, open communication. So by considering known financial factors, we can make more well-rounded and balanced decisions, ultimately leading to better outcomes. So the input of and insights are valuable in this process, making the advisor or on the board better for the decision-making process of the executives and the strategists. Another aspect I have noticed is the excessive caution associated with these issues. I mean, what was acceptable in the past probably will not be acceptable anymore tomorrow. People tend to avoid confronting these things, but we must acknowledge that nobody's perfect. We may not have been aware of certain things in the past, so it is important to take responsibility now. This hesitation is more prevalent in society rather than in businesses, because businesses can adapt to serve society's demands. Some of its skepticism may actually be denial. So as the song goes, what was acceptable in the 80s is not acceptable now anymore, many things. Still, it is required to draw a line and move forward in a way that aligns with the organization goals. So let's take a wider look into other things. For example, what about other aspects? How do investors keep track of them? And how can we address the challenge of greenwashing that skeptics and ESG enthusiasts often raise? When it comes to environmental issues, there are plenty of statistics that anyone can monitor. And some countries have implemented significant legislation regarding ecological factors. For instance, in the UK, there is a framework called SCER, which stands for Streamlined Energy Carbon Reporting. And this framework is divided in various scopes. Companies legally must disclose information. And here's the situation. Companies include some information in their annual reports, but that's about it. The framework simply instructs them to report the data without imposing any obligations to reduce their carbon footprint or take any further action. As reporting is a suggestion, if you may, in brackets, and not an obligation, so the same for the investors. What about them? So maybe investors should raise their expectation regarding the type of information they should seek. It goes beyond just the data. It's about understanding the underlying factors. Reports should demonstrate the impact of current events, and it's important to highlight what companies are doing beyond mere compliance. Compliance and legislation are tools at our disposal, obviously. It's evident that there is always more activity when a government announces a new law. The level of attention increases when it's declared as a law compared to when it's presented as a guideline or suggestions, which often feels more optional than actually we have to do it because it's a law. While compliance is a necessary obligation for companies, obviously. The issue with focusing solely on compliance is that it can skew people's understanding of ESG and the criteria used to measure it. If these criteria aren't truly making a difference, then it's all for nothing pretty much. In fact, it could even hinder progress towards the goals of sustainability, biodiversity, etc. So investors should collaborate with companies to assess the actual impact. The key is to listen to customers, employees, and check platforms like suggestion, Glassdoor, Google Reviews, and Trustpilot for an assessment of this impact. Because people, as they become more conscious of the consequences, they are more open to share their feedback of what's going on in reality, besides what the companies or investors are looking for or saying or reporting. So as a way of conclusion for today's video, it looks like there is a need for a greater understanding, implementation of ESG principles. From statistics, sharing corporate boards, or the limited comprehension, to the growing investor interest and the regulatory shift, the landscape of ESG is evolving. There's no doubt about it. Hope I grabbed your attention on the disparities in awareness and the potential consequences of overlooking ESG considerations. There are implications for businesses, investors, environment, and society. Bear in mind that the benefits that long-term sustainability offers to if you're going to be attracted to capital to invest in your company. Now, I guess that it's time for action. So you and I have the power to drive change within organizations and beyond. I mean, it's true that ESG is a challenge, and moreover, integrating ESG into decision-making processes, particularly to seize the opportunities it presents. But at the same time, we cannot lose sight that we can contribute to a more sustainable and socially responsible future. So from the board's perspective or advisory board perspective, I hope this video helped you or to have another side, another ideas of what is the observation from other people around the globe. So in the next video, I will talk a bit more about diversity because I want to have a full video about that, and I hope you like it, and we talk soon. Thank you very much.